We're back on WUSB with Ava Earl. Her new album is The Roses, and you just heard New Light, which is all except for maybe the first few lines of a love song, but an introspective one. And I just found it so interesting that you sort of ground the whole situation before describing it. You know, you're small compared to the universe, life is just silly, but here it goes.
Yeah.
Tell me about your beliefs in terms of the universe and life being silly.
I guess I don't have like a religion that I believe in specifically. I consider myself agnostic, and that's kind of how I was raised. And I've always had a very strong belief in science, which I think sometimes clashes with faith. And I mean, I feel like I have a faith in the world. It's not necessarily organized, but like kind of like I was talking about earlier when I was talking about Mountain Song, how like I feel like I have a lot of faith in myself, and that sometimes can be unwarranted and not always incredibly safe for me to have. But I believe a lot in myself and in other people. But I also do think that, you know, it's such a, like, scientifically, it's such a, like, random occurrence that any of us are alive to begin with, that there is something magical about that, even though it's just, you know, it's silly, it's random, but here we are. And I think that's really special. And also, like, you know, as important as it is that I'm alive and that, like, all these random events collided to create me, I'm going to be gone just like that in, you know, the span of the universe. I don't really mean anything. And I feel like that's also got its own freedom. Like, I am just, like I said, I'm just going to be a speck of dust to somebody else who will never meet me, never know about me. And I think that's kind of empowering in a way to just be anonymous.
That is a very interesting way of looking at it. I just wanted to try to understand your belief in the universe, because I had a feeling there was no guiding text I could read to figure out what you were talking about.
Yeah, it's a little all over the place, but, you know.
So this is also a song about sort of the beauty of getting to know someone at the beginning of love and making all those new discoveries. Is that the best part of love for you?
I think there's a lot of good parts, and I feel like, I mean, I haven't had too many relationships, but getting to know someone, whether it is a romantic relationship or just a platonic one, I think is super exciting. And I love how at any new relationship there's a lot of promise, and I feel like at least I see the best in people right off the get-go. So if I'm talking to them and I'm like, wow, you're a really cool person, and I like imagine all these, like, you know, connections that we have, like I guess I can, like, I mean, not like I'm like thinking about like my future with someone after meeting them once, but like knowing that there is a place to go in a relationship, I think is pretty neat. And that's what this song specifically is about. But I also feel like there's like a lot of significance in having like a deeper, older relationship with someone where you just kind of like, you're at the point where you just understand each other. And again, that can be platonic or romantic. And so, yeah, I feel like there's definitely different stages. And so, like, the new light stage of relationships will not last forever, but I feel like you can always find it with someone else in your life, and I think that's pretty special.
You also, in addition to running and climbing mountains and writing songs and going to school, you're active somewhat in Alaska politics. You sing about foolish men who think they own the earth. You tell the patriarchy to crumble, which, let's be honest, would be very nice. So tell me a little bit about your activism adventures.
Yeah, I have always been pretty outspoken with my opinions. and I know that I don't know everything, but I don't feel like that should silence me, you know. And, you know, growing up as a young woman in Alaska and, you know, growing up as a girl in Alaska, I definitely feel like I have a unique perspective. I mean, not unique to everybody, but I feel like a lot of young people and a lot of women feel underestimated a lot. And it's very easy. I mean, I find myself doing it subconsciously, like discounting a young person or a woman on their ideas because, you know, that's what we've been ingrained to believe because we live in a patriarchal society. And so I have never really been afraid to express that in my music. And I hope that people who listen to it, like Up Here in the Sky, I hope that people don't like just skip it right after they hear, "Oh, you foolish man." Because it really is just, it's from my perspective. I mean, actually, Up Here in the Sky was inspired by the Iliad. And it's from the perspective of a goddess who just kind of doesn't actually really care as much as, you know, Homer's goddesses cared about the people on the earth and stuff like that. And chaos is kind of a continuation of that. It's also from the perspective of a goddess. And I think that that's kind of an empowering thing as well, to like kind of take a character and imagine what she would feel about humanity. And how silly it is that we have, you know, preferences and like, I mean, not preferences, but like stereotypes and discrimination and stuff like that when we're all just people, you know? So, yeah.
So, what are you doing to make some changes?
I'm involved with, I mean, aside from my music, I feel like partly just talking about it and like making a space where I can say like, "Oh, little patriarchy, crumble at my will," and people don't immediately walk away. I feel like that's something at least. And for, you know, other young women to see that they have someone else who maybe shares their perspective on the world. Aside from music, I am involved in some like youth organizations in Alaska, like namely would be Anchorage Youth Vote, which I've been part of for about a year now, and we mostly do stuff like we do like voter outreach during elections and stuff like that, but we also like will make PSAs and stuff for the League of Women Voters and stuff like that. Like we made PSAs about the John Lewis Advancement Act and the Equal Rights Amendment recently. And we will like organize workshops for students and stuff like that, host mock elections, just kind of trying to get young people engaged and empowered to know that they can make a change in the community. We don't necessarily like direct what that change could be. So someone with a totally different opinion on how the world should work from me would probably fit right in at Youth Vote. And I think that's kind of cool too, because I do think it's important not to, you know, get stuck in a bubble of your own opinions. And I think just as important as, you know, being validated by people that have the same thoughts as you about politics and, you know, the world at large, it's important to hear other people's opinions because, you know, they might stick, and you might also say, "Oh, well, that just reinforces what I believe," and I think that's pretty valid too. So, yeah.
Well, being a public radio show, I have to play some PSAs, so we'll work something out. Maybe I'll play a few of yours if they're not totally specific to Alaska.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a state you care about. You're active in improving. You mention it in so many of your songs indirectly. So every time I have a guest come on the show, I have them pick one song by an artist who is not them. So the category I'm giving you is someone else from up in Alaska or northern Canada, or just someone else from that great northern beyond that we here in New York can barely conceptualize, especially on today, which is almost 90 degrees, high humidity, just unbearable.
Yeah. One person who comes to mind is my longtime friend, Stephen Bacon. He is an Anchorage artist, so very close to me. And he has a song called Food on the Table. I think it's probably his most popular song. And it's kind of, I think it does have a few like little Alaska things in there, but just about appreciating what you have in life. And I think that that's something that we can use, you know, regardless of where we're from, but also like in Alaska, there's so much to appreciate, like just being in the natural beauty, and yeah, so that's a great one.
All right, I'll play it. Ava Earl, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.